She made one mistake. She said no to the wrong man. Now she's bleeding in a cursed forest, hunted like an animal, with nowhere left to run, until a wolf the size of a horse pins her to the mud, and she does the unthinkable. She gives it an order, and it obeys. What happens next will shake an entire kingdom to its core. This is the story of a girl who refused to be prey, and the Beast King who couldn't resist her. Stay until the end to see how she turns a death sentence into a crown. Hit like if you're ready for this wild ride, and drop your city in the comments so we know where you're watching from. The rain came down like punishment. Leora Vance ran through the forest with no shoes, no plan, and a gash across her ribs that wouldn't stop bleeding. Every breath was a knife. Every step was a gamble. Behind her she could hear the dogs, trained hunting hounds that belonged to Anton Greaves, the man who'd decided she was his property 3 weeks ago. She'd told him no. Twice. The first time he'd laughed. The second time, he'd had her dragged to his estate and locked her in a stone tower like something out of a nightmare. He called it courtship. She called it what it was. Imprisonment with a wedding date stamped on the end. So she'd climbed out a window during the storm, dropped 2 stories into mud, and started running. Now the hounds were closing in. Leora's bare feet slipped on wet roots. She caught herself against a tree, bark scraping her palms raw. Blood mixed with rain and dripped onto the forest floor. Her dress, what was left of it, clung to her like a second skin, torn at the hem and soaked black. She'd lost the veil hours ago. Good riddance. The forest was old here. Older than the estates, older than the roads. The trees grew so thick overhead that even the storm barely touched the ground, just a cold mist that hung in the air like breath. Somewhere ahead, she knew, was the wall. The one everyone whispered about, but no one crossed. The Thorn Wall. It marked the edge of the Draven territory. Wild land, forbidden land, the kind of place you only entered if you had a death wish or nothing left to lose. Stories said the wolves there were bigger than horses, that they hunted in packs and left nothing behind. Stories said worse things, too, about a king who'd gone feral and a court that fed on fear. Leora didn't care. She'd take wolves over Anton Greaves any day. A hound bayed behind her, close enough that she could hear its claws tearing through the undergrowth. She pushed off the tree and ran harder, lungs screaming. The gash in her side pulled with every stride, warm blood slicking her skin beneath the ruined fabric. Then she saw it. The thorn wall rose out of the mist like a living thing, black, twisted vines thick as her arm, tangled so tight there shouldn't have been a way through. Thorns longer than her fingers jutted out at every angle, some of them still dripping sap that looked too dark to be natural. The smell hit her next. Wet earth, old rot, and something else. Something wild. She didn't slow down. There, a gap, barely wide enough for her body, low to the ground where the vines had grown crooked. She dropped to her knees and crawled, thorns catching her dress, her hair, her skin. One raked across her shoulder and she bit down on a scream, kept moving. Behind her, the hounds hit the wall and started barking, frantic, confused. They wouldn't follow. Animals knew better. Leora dragged herself through and collapsed on the other side, gasping. For a moment, she just lay there in the mud, shaking, listening to the hounds howl and the rain hammer down. Then she heard the whistle. Anton's men. They'd caught up. She forced herself to her feet, swaying. The world tilted. Blood loss, adrenaline, exhaustion. It didn't matter. She had to keep moving. The forest on this side of the wall was different, darker. The trees grew in strange shapes, their branches curling like claws. The ground was soft, covered in moss that glowed faintly in the dim light. No birds. No insects. Just silence and the sound of her own ragged breathing. Leora stumbled forward, one hand pressed to her bleeding side. She made it maybe 50 yards before her legs gave out. She hit the ground hard, vision swimming. The moss was cold against her cheek. Somewhere far away she could still hear the men shouting, the hounds barking. They were trying to find another way in. They'd come. Eventually. She closed her eyes. Maybe this was it. Maybe she'd run as far as she could. At least she'd done it on her own terms. At least... A growl, low and deep, rolled through the air like thunder. Leora's eyes snapped open. The wolf stood 10 feet away, half hidden in the shadows between 2 massive trees. It was enormous, Bigger than the stories, bigger than anything that should exist. Black fur, slick with rain, rippled over muscle and bone. Its eyes glowed amber in the dark, fixed on her with an intelligence that made her stomach drop. Not a wolf. Something worse. It took a step forward, then another. Leora tried to move, but her body wouldn't respond. The wolf lowered its head, lips pulling back to reveal teeth the size of daggers. The growl deepened, vibrating through the ground, through her bones. This was it. Eaten alive or dragged back to Anton. Great choices. The wolf lunged. Leora threw up her hands on instinct, a useless gesture, and screamed the first thing that came to her mind. "Bad dog! Get off!" The wolf, mid-leap, jerked to a halt. It landed inches from her, claws digging into the moss, and froze. Its head tilted, ears flicking forward. Those amber eyes locked onto hers, wide with something that looked almost like shock. Leora stared back, chest heaving. Her hands were still raised, shaking. The wolf didn't move, didn't attack, just stood there, massive and impossible, watching her like it had never been yelled at before. "What?" she whispered. "What the hell?" The wolf's form shimmered. The air around it bent, twisted, and then suddenly it wasn't a wolf anymore. It was a man. He stood over her, breathing hard, rain streaming down a face that looked carved from stone and fury. Tall, taller than anyone she'd ever seen, with black hair plastered to his skull and eyes that still glowed amber. Scars ran across his bare chest, old and deep. He wore torn pants and nothing else. His hands, human now, but only barely, were clenched into fists at his sides. "You?" His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it in years. "What did you just do?" Leora's brain wasn't working. She was bleeding out in a haunted forest, staring up at a man who'd just been a wolf, and apparently she'd told him what to do, and he'd listened. She coughed, tasted blood. "I don't know." The man crouched down, moving with the fluid grace of something that wasn't entirely human. Up close, she could see the tension in his jaw, the way his muscles coiled like he was fighting to stay still. His eyes searched her face, hungry and desperate and furious all at once. "Say something else," he demanded. "What?" "Give me another command." His hand shot out, grabbed her wrist. Not rough, but firm. "Anything. Do it." Leora tried to pull away, but she had no strength left. "Let go of me." He released her instantly, flinching back like she'd burned him. His eyes went wide again, something like wonder breaking through the fury. Then he laughed, short, sharp, bitter. "Impossible." He stood abruptly pacing, running both hands through his wet hair. "You're human. You smell human. You can't be—" He spun back to her. "Who are you?" "No one," Leora said. It came out weak. The world was going gray at the edges. "Just someone who ran out of options." "You crossed the thorn wall." Seemed like a good idea at the time. His laugh came again, darker this time. "You're dying." "Yeah, I noticed." He knelt beside her, and this time his touch was careful when he moved her hand away from the wound. His expression shifted, still hard, still dangerous, but something else underneath. Calculation. "I could let you bleed out," he said quietly. "Safer that way." "Then do it. Or," his eyes met hers, "I could use you." Leora managed a weak smile, tasting blood. "Everyone wants to use me. Get in line." "Not like that." He was silent for a moment, jaw working. Then, "You told me to stop, and I stopped. Do you understand what that means?" "That you're a very good listener?" "It means you have a voice I can't ignore." His hand hovered over her wound, trembling slightly. "My name is Kyle Draven. I'm the Alpha King of this territory, and I'm losing control of everything. My kingdom, my council, my own mind. I need someone who can command me when the beast takes over. Someone I'll actually obey." Sounds like a personal problem. It becomes your problem if you want to live. Leora's vision was fading fast. She could hear the distant shouts of Anton's men still searching. She thought about the tower, the wedding dress, the life that had been chosen for her without her consent. "What's the catch?" she whispered. Kyle's eyes glowed brighter. "You become my mate. Publicly. It's the only way the bond will hold, the only way my council won't kill you on sight for being human." Boom, tuat. He leaned closer. "And when I lose myself, when the curse takes over and I become something that would slaughter everything in sight, you stop me with that voice of yours. That's insane. Yes, I don't even know you. You don't have to." His hand finally touched the wound, and she gasped. Heat flooded through her, sharp and foreign. "You just have to survive long enough to be useful. After that, we'll see." Behind them, branches snapped, voices getting closer. Kale's head whipped around, a snarl building in his throat. When he looked back at Leora, his eyes had gone pure predator. "Choose now. Die here and let them drag your corpse back, or live and take your chances with me." Leora looked up at this impossible man with glowing eyes and a kingdom falling apart, and she thought about Anton Greaves's smile when he'd locked the tower door. She thought about running barefoot through the rain. She thought about the fact that she was tired, so tired, of being treated like something to be owned. "Fine," she said. "Deal." Kale's smile was all teeth. "Good." He bit his own wrist fast and brutal and pressed it to her mouth before she could protest. The taste was copper and fire, wrong in every way. But the moment it hit her tongue, something shifted. The pain in her side dulled, the gray edges of her vision pulled back. Warmth spread through her veins like lightning. "Drink," he ordered, "or this won't work." She drank. She didn't have a choice. The blood burned going down, and with it came flashes, images, sensations, rage and hunger, and something vast and terrible prowling just beneath the surface of Kyle's skin. She could feel his curse like a living thing, could sense the fractures in his control. When he pulled his wrist away, she was gasping. The wound in her side had stopped bleeding, not healed, but sealed over with something that felt wrong and right at the same time. "Can you stand?" Kyle asked. Leora nodded, not trusting her voice. He hauled her up with one hand, steadying her when she swayed. The voices were close now. Anton's men crashing through the undergrowth, following her trail. Kyle's expression went cold. "How many?" "4, maybe 5. "Armed?" "Guns, blades, nets for the hounds." He nodded slowly, something vicious sliding into his smile. "Stay behind me. Don't run. And if I tell you to close your eyes, do it." "Why would—" The first man broke through the tree line, rifle raised. He saw Kyle and froze, face going white. "What in the—" Kale moved. Leora didn't see it happen. One moment he was beside her, the next he was a black blur of motion and fury. The man's scream cut off almost before it started. Then the others were shouting, guns firing, but Kyle was already among them. He didn't shift fully, stayed in this in-between form, half man and half monster, faster than anything human. It was over in seconds. When the sound stopped, Leora forced herself to look. 4 bodies on the ground, none of them moving. Kale stood in the middle of them, breathing hard, blood on his hands and face. His eyes still glowed, but when he turned to her, his expression was calm, controlled. "The 5th one ran," he said. "He'll spread word that you're here, that you're with me." He wiped blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. "No going back now." Leora stared at the bodies, at this man who'd just killed 4 armed hunters like it was nothing, and felt the weight of her choice settle in. She'd traded one nightmare for another. Maybe worse, but at least this one she'd chosen herself. "Come on," Kyle said, offering his hand. "My court is 3 miles north. We need to get there before dawn, before my council hears about this from anyone else." "Your council," Leora repeated. "The ones who want to replace you. The ones who will absolutely try to kill you the moment they see you, yes." His hand stayed extended. "Still interested?" Leora looked at his hand, at the blood on it, at the glowing eyes and the scars and the barely contained violence humming just beneath his skin. She thought about the tower again, about all the choices that had been stolen from her. She took his hand. "Let's go meet your friends," she said. Kyle's laugh was low and dangerous. They're not my friends, but you're about to become their worst nightmare. He pulled her close, one arm around her waist, and Leora barely had time to gasp before he shifted. Not fully, just enough that his legs changed, became powerful and inhuman. Then he ran, and the forest blurred around them. Leora clung to him, feeling his heartbeat against her cheek. Too fast, too strong, not quite human. The bond between them hummed in her chest, foreign and invasive, but undeniably there. She could feel his curse prowling beneath his skin, could sense how close he was to losing control entirely. And she realized, with a sharp stab of clarity, that she'd just agreed to be the leash for a monster who could tear kingdoms apart. The trees opened up ahead, and through the rain she could see lights, torches, stone walls rising out of the forest like teeth, a fortress built into the wild itself, all sharp edges and dark stone, surrounded by wolves the size of bears prowling the perimeter. "Welcome," Kyle said, his voice rough in her ear, "to the Draven Court." The gates were already opening. Figures moved in the shadows, more wolves, more impossible creatures. And standing at the entrance, waiting with expressions that ranged from shock to fury to cold calculation, were a dozen people who looked like they wanted her dead on sight. Kyle didn't slow down. He carried her straight through the gates, past the snarling wolves, into the courtyard where the entire court had gathered. Rain hammered down on stone, torches guttered in the wind. He set her down in front of them all, kept one hand on her shoulder. Possessive, claiming. "This," he announced, his voice cutting through the storm, "is Leora Vance. As of tonight, she is my mate and your future queen. Anyone who has a problem with that can challenge me now." Silence. Then a woman stepped forward, tall, silver-haired, with eyes like chips of ice. She looked at Leora the way you'd look at an insect. "She's human," the woman said flatly. "You've lost your mind." "Probably," Kael agreed. "Challenge me, Sarah, or accept it." The woman, Sarah, stared at him for a long moment. Then her eyes flicked to Leora, assessing. "She won't last a week. Then you have nothing to worry about." Another figure moved forward, younger, male, with a smile that made Leora's skin crawl. "The human knows what she's agreed to? That being your mate means sharing your curse, your madness, your inevitable fall." "She knows enough," Kael said. "Does she?" The man's smile widened. "Does she know that the last 3 women you claimed all died screaming? That your beast doesn't recognize bonds, only prey?" Kael's hand tightened on Leora's shoulder. She could feel the fury building in him, the curse rising to the surface. His control was slipping. So she did the only thing she could think of. She stepped forward, out of his grip, and looked the smiling man dead in the eye. "What's your name?" He blinked, surprised. "Vaughn." "Well, Vaughn, I've had a really long night. I've been hunted, bled out, made a deal with your insane king, and watched him kill 4 men without breaking a sweat. So here's what I know. I'm still standing, and I'm not going anywhere." She glanced around at the assembled court. "Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with Kael, or with me. Your choice." Dead silence. Then, from somewhere in the back, someone laughed. A rough, approving sound. Sarah's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Respect? Maybe. Or just recalculation. Kael's hand found Leora's again, and when she looked up at him, his eyes had dimmed back to almost human. Almost. "Get her to my chambers," he told Sarah. "Food, water, bandages. She's under my protection." "As you command, my king," Sarah said, the words dripping with something between irony and threat. She gestured, and 2 younger wolves stepped forward, nervous, watching Leora like she might explode. Kael released her hand slowly, reluctantly. "Don't try to run," he said quietly. "There's nowhere to go." "I know," Leora said, and she did. She'd made her choice, for better or worse. Sarah led her into the fortress, through stone corridors lit by torches that burned with blue flames. The younger wolves followed close behind, whispering to each other in a language Leora didn't understand. She could feel eyes on her from every shadow, could hear growls echoing off the walls. They stopped at a heavy wooden door. Sarah pushed it open, revealing a room that was bigger than Anton's entire tower, sparse but functional, with a massive bed, a fireplace already burning, and windows that looked out over the wild forest. "Food will be brought," Sarah said curtly. "Don't wander. Most of the court would kill you just for the sport of it." She paused at the door. "He's not what he used to be, you know. The king. The curse is winning. Whatever you think you can do for him, you're wrong." "Maybe," Leora said, "but I'd rather be wrong here than right back there." Sarah studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded once and left. The door closed. Leora was alone. She made it to the bed before her legs gave out again. The room spun. Adrenaline was crashing, blood loss catching up. She pressed a hand to her sealed wound, feeling the unnatural heat still pulsing beneath the skin. What the hell had she just done? A knock at the door. She didn't answer, but it opened anyway. A young girl, maybe 16, with wolf ears and a nervous expression, slipped in carrying a tray of food and a basin of water. "For you, miss," she whispered, setting it on the table. "The king says to eat. You'll need your strength." "Why?" Leora asked. The girl's ears flattened. "Because tomorrow the council meets, and they're going to try to break the bond and have you executed." She backed toward the door. "Everyone knows. It's already decided." Then she was gone. Leora stared at the food, at the water, at the blue flames dancing in the fireplace. Outside, wolves howled in the storm. Somewhere in this fortress, Kyle Draven was probably fighting his curse, holding on to control by a thread. And tomorrow, she'd have to face a council that wanted her dead. She laughed, short, sharp, bitter. It sounded like Kyle's laugh. "You really picked a winner this time," she muttered to herself. But when she closed her eyes, she didn't see the council or the wolves or the impossible choice ahead. She saw Anton's face, the tower, the life that had been chosen for her. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that she'd made the right call, even if it killed her. She ate the food, drank the water, cleaned the blood from her skin as best she could. Then she lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and waited for whatever came next. The bond in her chest hummed quietly, a thread of heat connecting her to the feral king somewhere in the dark. She could feel his curse prowling, restless and hungry. She could feel his rage, his desperation, his fear that he was losing himself piece by piece. And beneath all of it, she could feel something else. Something that had woken up the moment she told him to stop. Recognition, like calling to like, prey to predator, human to monster, or maybe just two people who'd run out of options and decided to see what happened when they stopped running. Leora closed her eyes and let the exhaustion take her. Tomorrow would come soon enough. And when it did, she'd do what she'd always done. She'd survive, no matter what it cost. Leora woke to the sound of something shattering. She jerked upright, heart hammering, and found Kyle standing by the window with his back to her. His shoulders were rigid, hands braced against the stone frame hard enough that his knuckles had gone white. On the floor, a ceramic pitcher lay in pieces, water spreading across the stone. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked. 3 hours. His voice was rough, strained. "Maybe 4, hard to tell. Did you sleep at all?" "No." Leora swung her legs off the bed, wincing. Her side still ached where the wound had been, a dull throb that felt wrong in a way she couldn't name. The bond hummed in her chest, stronger now, pulling her attention toward Kyle like a magnet. She could feel his curse. Even from across the room, she could sense it writhing beneath his skin, clawing for release. His control was fraying at the edges. "The council meets in an hour," he said without turning around. "They'll demand proof that you're actually my mate, that the bond is real. And if we can't prove it, they'll vote to have you executed as a trespasser. Human law doesn't apply here. Our laws are older, harsher." He finally turned to face her, and his eyes were that amber glow again, barely contained. "They'll make it public, a message to anyone else who might think crossing our borders is survivable." "Great, love that for me." His mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You're not afraid." "I'm terrified. I'm just good at lying about it." Leora stood, testing her balance. Better than last night, but still shaky. "So, how do we prove it?" The bond? Kael's expression went carefully blank. There are tests, traditional ones. Most involve blood, pain, and public displays of submission that I'd rather not subject you to. But there's another way. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. If you can command me in front of the council, genuinely command me. Make me obey when every instinct says to tear you apart. They'll have no choice but to accept it. You want me to give you orders while you're trying to kill me? Essentially, yes. That's insane. Welcome to my life. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched her jaw. His hand was warm, calloused. The curse gets worse under pressure. When I'm challenged, when I'm cornered, it wants blood. It wants violence. The council will push me to that edge deliberately to see if you can actually pull me back. Leora held his gaze. And if I can't? Then you die. I lose what's left of my sanity, and Sarah becomes queen by default. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. She's been waiting for this moment for 2 years. Sounds like she's really rooting for me. Kael's laugh was dark. Sarah would gut you herself if she thought she could get away with it. The only reason you're still alive is because they're curious. They want to see if you'll actually survive the council chamber. A knock at the door interrupted them. Kael's hand dropped, his expression shifting to something colder. Enter. The door opened, and the same young wolf girl from last night slipped in, eyes downcast. She carried a bundle of dark fabric. Your presence is requested in the preparation chamber, my king. The council has expectations. I'm sure they do. Kael took the fabric from her, dismissed her with a nod. When the door closed, he turned back to Leora and held out what turned out to be a dress. Black, simple, but clearly expensive. Put this on. No jewelry, no weapons. They'll search you anyway. Charming bunch. They're survivors, same as you. He moved toward the door, paused. Leora, when we're in there, when the curse takes over, don't hesitate. Don't be gentle. Command me like you mean it, or we both lose. Noted. He left. The door locked behind him with a heavy click. Leora stared at the dress for a long moment, then stripped off her ruined clothes and pulled it on. It fit perfectly, which should have been impossible. She caught her reflection in a polished shield hanging on the wall. Pale skin, dark circles under her eyes, hair a tangled mess. She looked exactly like what she was, someone who'd barely survived the night. Good. Let them underestimate her. 20 minutes later, guards came for her. 2 massive wolves in human form, silent and watchful. They escorted her through corridors that seemed to shift and twist, past rooms where she caught glimpses of impossible things. Wolves the size of bears lounging by fires. Children with fangs playing games that looked too violent to be games. An old woman stirring a pot that bubbled with something that definitely wasn't soup. They descended 3 flights of stairs and stopped at a set of iron doors carved with scenes of violence. Hunts, battles, things being torn apart. The guards pushed the doors open. The council chamber was circular, carved from black stone, with a domed ceiling that let in pale morning light through a hole at the top. 12 chairs arranged in a semicircle, all of them occupied. Kael stood in the center of the room, arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Sarah sat in the largest chair, silver hair pulled back, expression unreadable. Vaughn lounged to her right, that same disturbing smile on his face. The others ranged from openly hostile to coldly curious. All of them were predators, every single one. The guard shoved Leora forward. She stumbled but caught herself, straightening. The doors slammed shut behind her. Leora Vance, Sarah said, her voice echoing off stone. You stand accused of trespassing on Draven land, consorting with our king under false pretenses and attempting to manipulate the throne through deception. How do you plead? Leora looked at Kael. He gave her the smallest nod. Not guilty, she said clearly. I'm Kael's mate. That makes me one of you, not an intruder. Vaughn laughed. One of us? You're human. You smell like fear and desperation. The only reason you're not dead already is because our king seems to have developed a sense of humor. Or lost his mind entirely, another council member added. an older man with scars across his throat. 3 weeks ago, you told us the curse was under control, that you didn't need a mate bond. Now you bring us this? He gestured at Leora dismissively. A broken human who crossed the thorn wall running from her own failures? Careful, Marcus, Kael said softly. Dangerously. Or what? Marcus stood, spreading his hands. You'll lose control? Prove my point? The curse is winning, and we all know it. Bringing her here doesn't fix that. It accelerates it. Sarah raised a hand, cutting off whatever Kael was about to say. Enough. The question isn't whether the king is failing. The question is whether this human can actually help, or if she's just another liability waiting to get us all killed. She stood, moving with predatory grace, and circled Leora slowly. You claim to be his mate. Prove it. How? Leora asked. Command him. Sarah stopped in front of her, ice blue eyes boring into hers. If the bond is real, if you truly have power over his curse, then demonstrate it. Make him obey. That's not how it works, Kael started. Isn't it? Sarah cut him off. You told me yourself that when she speaks, the beast listens. So let's hear it. Let's see this miraculous human save our failing king. The chamber went silent, all eyes on Leora. She could feel Kael's fury building, could sense the curse rising in response to the challenge. His control was slipping fast. If she did nothing, he'd lose it right here, and probably tear half the council apart before they brought him down. But if she commanded him in front of them, showed them she had that power, it would make her a target. Forever. No good options. Story of her life. Kael, she said quietly. His eyes snapped to hers, already glowing amber. Kneel. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The curse roared inside him. She could feel it fighting against her voice, against the bond. His jaw clenched, muscles locked. Everything in him screamed to refuse, to attack, to prove dominance. Then, slowly, he dropped to one knee. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Sarah's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Interesting. Again. Leora kept her gaze on Kael. Stand, turn around, shift your right hand. He obeyed each command, mechanical and furious. When his hand shifted, claws extending, fur rippling across skin, several council members flinched. Enough! Kael growled. His voice was barely human. No, Sarah said. Once more. Command him to attack someone. Let's see if your leash holds when there's actual violence involved. Absolutely not, Leora said. Vaughn stood, smiling wider. Afraid you'll fail, or afraid you'll succeed and prove you're just as much a monster as the rest of us. I'm not making him hurt anyone to satisfy your curiosity. Then you've proven nothing. Sarah moved closer, predatory. Any dog can be taught to sit. We need to know if you can actually control him when it matters, when people are dying and the curse wants blood. Kael's control shattered. He lunged at Sarah with a snarl, fully shifted in an instant. Massive black wolf, all rage and teeth. Sarah dodged, barely, and Vaughn threw up some kind of barrier that Kael crashed into. The impact shook the floor. The curse had him, completely. He spun, looking for another target, and his amber eyes locked on Leora. Recognition flickered, then drowned in hunger. He crouched, preparing to leap. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Instead, Leora stepped forward. Kael, stop! He froze mid-lunge, muscles quivering. Come here. He fought it. She could see the battle raging behind his eyes, curse versus bond, beast versus man. But slowly, impossibly, he padded toward her. When he was close enough to kill her with one snap of his jaws, she reached out and placed her hand on his head. Shift back. Now. The transformation was violent. Bones cracking, fur receding, until Kael knelt in front of her again, human, shaking, eyes wild but aware. You see? Leora said to the council, not looking away from Kael. I don't need to make him attack someone. I can stop him. That's the point. Silence. Then Sarah started clapping, slow and deliberate. Well played, human. You've bought yourself a temporary stay of execution. She sat back down. But the bond is only as strong as your will, and will breaks. Eventually. Is that a threat? Leora asked. It's a fact. I've seen stronger bonds than yours shatter under pressure. Sarah leaned forward. You have 1 month, 30 days to prove you can actually stabilize him, help him regain control. If you fail, if he loses himself even once during that time, the deal is void and you forfeit your life. Agreed? Kale stood, still unsteady. That's not agreed, Leora said. He turned to stare at her. You don't know what you're agreeing to. Sure I do. 30 days to keep you from going feral, or I die. Sounds like a great time. Vaughn laughed. I like her. She's either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Both, Leora said. Definitely both. Sarah stood, signaling the meeting's end. Very well, 30 days. The human stays in the king's chambers under his protection. Anyone who harms her before the time limit expires will answer to me personally. My barnis is getiti. Her smile was sharp. After that, she's fair game. The council filed out, some casting curious glances back, others looking disappointed that she hadn't died already. Vaughn paused by the door. For what it's worth, he said to Leora, I hope you survive. It's been boring around here. You might make things interesting. Then he was gone. Kael and Leora stood alone in the chamber. His breathing was still ragged, hands clenched into fists. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. You shouldn't have agreed to that. Didn't have much choice. There's always a choice. He turned to face her fully. They're going to test you, constantly. They'll push me to the edge on purpose, create situations designed to make me lose control, just to see if you can handle it. Then I'll handle it. You don't understand. He closed the distance between them, urgent now. The curse isn't just anger, it's hunger, rage, violence. It wants to consume everything. And when it takes over, I don't recognize friend from enemy. I've killed people I cared about, people I was trying to protect. But you stopped when I told you to. This time. What about next time, or the time after that? His hand found her wrist, gripped tight. What happens when your voice isn't enough anymore? Leora met his eyes. Then I'll find something else that works. But I'm not running, Kael. I made a deal. I keep my deals. He stared at her for a long moment, something complicated passing across his face. Then he released her wrist and stepped back. Come on, I need to show you something. He led her out of the chamber, through more twisting corridors, down another flight of stairs. They descended deep into the fortress, past guards who bowed their heads as Kael passed. The air grew colder, damper. Stone gave way to rough-hewn rock. Finally, they stopped at a heavy iron door. This is where I go, Kael said quietly, when I lose control completely, when the curse takes over and I can't trust myself around anyone. He opened the door. Inside was a cell, reinforced walls, no windows, chains bolted to the floor. Scratch marks covered every surface. Some of them looked fresh. How often? Leora asked. Twice this month, 3 times the month before. He leaned against the doorframe. It's getting worse. The council knows it. That's why they're pushing for replacement. Sarah would be a stable queen, ruthless, but stable. And you'd be what? Locked down here forever? Executed, more likely. Can't risk a feral alpha running loose. Bad for morale. He said it like he was discussing the weather. I've accepted it. I knew this was coming. Well, I haven't accepted it. Leora turned away from the cell. You brought me here for a reason. You think I can help. So let's figure out how. There is no how. The curse is part of me. It's not something you cure. It's something you manage. And I'm running out of ways to manage it. Then we find new ways. You're not listening. Kael's frustration broke through. This isn't a problem you can solve with determination. I've tried everything. Blood rituals, binding spells, meditation, isolation, violence as an outlet. Nothing works. The curse gets stronger every time I shift, every time I let the beast out. Eventually, it'll be permanent. So what? You just give up? Let them kill you? It's better than the alternative. He moved closer, and there was real fear in his eyes now, raw and honest. You don't know what it's like. When the curse has me completely, I'm not me anymore. I'm just hunger and rage. I've woken up covered in blood with no memory of what I did. I found bodies, people I knew, people who trusted me, torn apart. Do you understand? I did that. And one day, I won't come back from it. Leora held his gaze. But you came back this time, in the council chamber. You heard my voice and you came back. Because the bond is new, fresh. Give it time. It'll wear down, same as everything else. You don't know that. Yes, I do. His hand came up, gentle despite the tension in his frame, and brushed hair away from her face. I appreciate what you're trying to do, really, but you're just delaying the inevitable. In 30 days, when you can't stop me anymore, the council will execute you first, then me. At least we tried, right? The resignation in his voice made something hot and furious flare in Leora's chest. No, she said flatly. No? You don't get to give up. Not when I'm standing here betting my life on you. She grabbed his wrist. I didn't survive Anton Greaves, didn't run through a storm and cross the thorn wall, didn't agree to bond with a cursed king just to watch you roll over and die. We have 30 days. That's 30 days to figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. Then we make something up. She was yelling now, didn't care. You said the curse wants violence. Fine. We give it controlled violence. You said it gets worse under pressure. We reduce the pressure. You said it's getting stronger every time you shift. We find a way to shift that doesn't feed it. I don't care if it's never been done before. We're doing it anyway. Kyle stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You're insane. So I've been told. A laugh escaped him, surprised and genuine. You really think we can do this? I think we don't have a choice, so we might as well try. Leora released his wrist. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? We die? We were going to die anyway. At least this way we go down fighting. Something shifted in Kyle's expression. The resignation faded, replaced by something sharper, more alive. All right, he said slowly. All right, if we're doing this, we do it right. No half measures. Agreed. And if it goes wrong, if I lose control and you can't stop me, you run. You get as far from here as possible and don't look back. Not happening. Leora, not happening. She stepped closer. You don't get to sacrifice yourself to save me. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? We both survive, or neither of us does. Deal? Kyle looked at her for a long moment, and Leora could see him warring with himself. Finally, he nodded. Deal. He offered his hand. She took it. The bond flared in her chest, warm and electric, and for just a second she could feel everything he felt. Fear, hope, something that might have been trust if either of them knew what that looked like anymore. Then he pulled his hand back and the sensation faded. We start tomorrow, he said. Training. If you're going to control the curse, you need to understand it. That means spending time around me when I'm shifted, learning the signs, figuring out what triggers the worst of it. Sounds dangerous. Extremely. You'll probably get hurt. Can't wait. His smile was small but real. You're not what I expected. Good. I hate being predictable. Leora started toward the stairs, then paused. One question. Yeah? Why me? You could have left me to bleed out in the forest. Could have let Anton's men take me. Why save me at all? Kale was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Because when you told me to stop, I wanted to obey. For the first time in years, the curse listened. And I thought maybe, if there was even the smallest chance you could do that again, it was worth the risk. Was it? Worth the risk? Ask me in 30 days. They climbed the stairs in silence. When they reached the main level, chaos greeted them. Wolves running, shouting, the smell of smoke. Sarah appeared around the corner, face grim. We have a problem. What now? Hale demanded. Your human's former captor, Anton Greaves. He's here with a private army and some kind of weapon I've never seen before. He's demanding we return his stolen property or he levels the fortress. She looked at Leora. Congratulations. You've started a war. Kale's eyes flashed amber. How many? 50 armed men, maybe more. And the weapon? It's not normal. It's killing wolves from a distance. Marcus took a hit trying to scout. He's not regenerating. A chill ran down Leora's spine. That's not possible. Anton didn't have access to anything like that. Well, he does now. Sarah's expression was cold. The council wants to hand you over. End this before it gets worse. No, Kael said flatly. It's not your decision anymore. They're voting now. If the majority says she goes, she goes. Leora's mind raced. Anton was here. Somehow he'd found her, armed himself with something that could actually hurt the Draven pack, and now he was going to take her back. Back to the tower, back to the forced marriage, back to being property. I'll go, she heard herself say. Kael spun on her. What? If it stops the attack, I'll go. She looked at Sarah. He wants me, not you. Give me to him, and he'll leave. You can't be serious, Kael said. I'm very serious. Your people are dying because I'm here. If leaving fixes that, you're not going anywhere. Kael's voice dropped to a growl. The curse was rising. She could feel it. I claimed you. You're mine. And I don't give up what's mine. This isn't about ownership, isn't it? His eyes were fully amber now. You think I'll just hand you over to that bastard? Let him drag you back to whatever hell you escaped from? Not happening. Sarah watched them both, calculating. The council meets in 5 minutes. You need a solution by then, or they make the choice for you. She left. Kael grabbed Leora's shoulders, urgent. Listen to me. If you go back to him, you die. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. Men like that, they don't forgive defiance. I know. Then why would you even suggest it? Because people are dying, Kael. Your people. Because of me. Then we fight. He said it like it was simple. We fight and we win. And we make Anton Greaves regret ever coming here. With what? You heard Sarah. He has a weapon that's killing your wolves. You can't regenerate from it. How are you supposed to fight that? I don't know yet, but I'm not handing you over. That's not your decision to make. Yes, it is, he was shouting now. You're my mate. That means your safety is my responsibility. That means I protect you, even if you're too stubborn to protect yourself. I don't need your protection. Clearly you do, because you were about to walk straight into a trap. They stared at each other, both breathing hard, the bond between them crackling with tension. Then Leora said, quietly, What if I have a plan? Kael blinked. What? A plan. To end this without anyone else dying, without me going back to Anton. I'm listening. She took a breath. Anton's not here for me specifically. He's here because I embarrassed him, because I escaped and made him look weak. He needs to save face, show everyone he's still in control. So? So we give him an out, a way to leave here with his pride intact and no reason to come back. How? Leora smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. We challenge him to single combat, old rules, champion versus champion, winner takes all. Kael's eyes widened. You want me to fight him? No, I want me to fight him. Absolutely not. Hear me out. No. You're human, you're injured, and he probably outweighs you by 100 pounds. It's suicide. It's strategy. Leora stepped closer. He won't be able to resist. His ego won't let him. And when he agrees, when he steps into the ring thinking he's going to crush me in front of everyone, that's when you intervene. Understanding dawned on Kael's face. You want to bait him. I want to make him so furious, so focused on me, that he doesn't see you coming until it's too late. That's... Kael ran a hand through his hair. That's actually not terrible, but it's still insanely dangerous. Got a better idea? He didn't answer. 30 days, Leora reminded him. We need to survive 30 days. This gets us through day 1. Kael looked at her, and something in his expression shifted. Respect, maybe, or the beginning of it. You're sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. He nodded slowly. Then we do it together. You bait him, I end him. But the second it goes wrong, you pull me out. I know. Promise me. I promise. The bond hummed between them, sealing the agreement. They found Sarah in the main hall, coordinating defenses. Kale laid out the plan. Sarah listened, expression unreadable, then finally nodded. It could work. If the human doesn't get herself killed in the first 30 seconds. She won't, Kyle said. You seem very confident in someone you met yesterday. I am. Sarah's eyes moved to Leora. You understand what you're doing? Anton Greaves doesn't fight fair. He'll use every advantage he has. Good, Leora said. So will I. Sarah's smile was sharp. Maybe you will survive the month. We'll see. She turned to Kale. I'll arrange the challenge 1 hour. And Kyle, if this goes wrong, the council will demand her head anyway. Don't let it go wrong. Wasn't planning on it. They had 1 hour to prepare for a fight that would either save them both or get them killed. Leora tried very hard not to think about which outcome was more likely. The hour passed like minutes. Kale dragged Leora to the training yard, a wide circle of packed earth surrounded by stone walls scorched black from fire and claws. A handful of younger wolves were sparring when they arrived, but one look from Kyle and they scattered. Show me how you fight, he said. I don't. What? I don't fight, I run. That's my strategy. Leora gestured at herself. Look at me. I'm not a warrior. I'm just someone who's gotten very good at not dying. Kale's jaw tightened. Anton will try to kill you the second you step into that ring. Running won't be an option. I know. Then what's the plan? Exactly. Leora met his eyes. I make him angry. Angry enough that he forgets to be careful. And when he comes at me, really comes at me, thinking he's already won, you stop him. That's not a plan. That's a suicide mission with extra steps. You have a better idea? He didn't answer. Instead, he moved behind her, adjusting her stance with rough hands. If you're doing this, at least learn how to take a hit without breaking. Knees bent, weight forward. When he swings, you don't freeze. You move. For the next 40 minutes, Kyle put her through the worst crash course in combat survival she'd ever experienced. He didn't pull punches, didn't slow down. Every time she hesitated, he knocked her flat. Every time she tried to predict his movements, he changed them. By the time Sarah came to collect them, Leora was bruised, bleeding from a split lip, and pretty sure at least one rib was cracked. You look terrible, sir, Sarah observed. Thanks, really needed that. Anton's waiting. He agreed to the challenge, but he's brought his weapon. Whatever it is, it's massive. My scouts say it's some kind of armored suit, mechanical, advanced. Nothing we've seen before. Kyle went very still. A suit? Reinforced plating, hydraulic strength, built-in weapons. He's inside it, piloting it. Sarah's expression was grim. This isn't a fair fight. It's an execution. Then we don't fight fair, Leora said. Sarah looked at her for a long moment. You're either very brave or very stupid. I keep hearing that. They walked to the main gate. The entire court had gathered, hundreds of wolves, all watching in tense silence. The council stood on a raised platform, Vaughn among them, looking far too entertained. Beyond the gates, she could see Anton's forces, armed men in formation, guns trained on the fortress walls. And in the center, the suit. It stood 12 feet tall, polished steel plating etched with circuitry that glowed faint blue. The helmet was shaped like a skull, eye slits burning with the same cold light. Heavy arms ended in clawed gauntlets that could probably punch through stone. On its back, some kind of cannon jutted out, already primed. Anton's voice boomed from speakers built into the chest. Leora Vance, you have caused me considerable inconvenience. Leora stepped forward, ignoring the way her hand shook. Kyle moved to follow, but she shot him a look that said, stay. He stopped, fury radiating off him, but he stayed. She walked to the center of the clearing alone. Inconvenience, she called back. You locked me in a tower and tried to force me to marry you. I'd call that more than inconvenient. You were honored by my proposal. Any woman would be. Any woman with no self-respect, maybe. Murmurs rippled through both crowds. Anton's mechanical suit shifted, servos whining. You will apologize, publicly. Then you will return with me, and this unpleasantness will be forgotten. Or, Leora asked, or I level this entire fortress, and everyone in it, starting with your new pet. The suit's head turned toward Kyle. The Beast King. I've heard stories. They say you're feral, dangerous. Let's test that. The cannon on his back swiveled, aimed directly at Kyle. Leora's heart stopped. Don't, she said. Give me a reason not to. Because I'm challenging you. Single combat, old rules. You beat me, I go with you willingly. I beat you, you leave and never come back. Anton laughed, the sound distorted through speakers. You? Fight me? In this? The suit gestured to itself. You'll be dead in seconds. Then it should be easy for you, unless you're scared. Silence. Then the cannon lowered. Very well. I accept your challenge. The suit stepped forward, each footfall shaking the ground. When I'm done with you, Leora, you'll beg me to take you back. And I will. But you'll spend the rest of your life remembering this moment, remembering how easily I broke you. Sarah raised her hand. Terms are set. The challenge is witnessed. Begin on my mark. Kyle grabbed Leora's arm, pulled her close. The second he moves, you run left. He'll be slower to turn in that thing. I know. I trust you. Something flickered in his eyes. Then he released her and stepped back. Sarah's hand dropped. Begin! Anton charged. The suit moved faster than something that size should be able to move. Leora dove left, barely avoiding the first swing. The gauntlet smashed into the ground where she'd been standing, cracking stone. She rolled, came up running. Still quick, Anton's voice crackled. That won't save you. He fired something from his wrist, a net made of electrified cables. Leora dropped flat, felt it pass over her head. It hit a young wolf behind her who'd been watching too close. The kid screamed and went down convulsing. Fury burned through Leora's fear. Is that all you've got? She shouted. A fancy suit and cheap tricks? No wonder you needed to lock me up. You can't win a fair fight. The suit paused. Careful, Leora. I'm trying to be merciful. Merciful? You killed that kid. Collateral damage. There will be more if you don't surrender. Then come get me yourself. Or are you too scared to step out of your metal shell? I'm not falling for... You're pathetic, Leora cut him off. Hiding in there, pretending you're strong. Everyone can see it, Anton. You're weak. You've always been weak. That's why you need technology to fight for you. That's why you had to trap me instead of earning me. The suit trembled. Shut up. Make me! Anton roared and charged again, all strategy abandoned. The suit barreled toward her like a freight train. Leora ran, not away, but toward the fortress walls where the ground was uneven, rocky. The suit's heavy footfalls were slower here, servos straining. She grabbed a loose stone and hurled it. It bounced off the helmet, useless, but it made Anton angrier. You think you're clever? He snarled. You think your Beast King will save you? He's nothing. When I'm done with you, I'll tear him apart piece by piece. He's more than you'll ever be. He's an animal. At least he's honest about it. You're just a coward playing dress-up. The suit's cannon swiveled again, this time aimed at the crowd, at the young wolves clustered near the gate. Last chance, Leora. Surrender, or I start killing them. Kale snarled, started to shift. Leora felt the curse rising in him, felt his control splintering. No! She screamed, not at Anton, at Kale. Don't! Not yet! Kale froze, the command hitting him like a physical blow. He stayed human, barely, eyes blazing amber. Anton laughed. See? Even your monster knows his place. Now come here. The suit's gauntlet shot out, grabbed Leora by the throat, and lifted her off the ground. Metal fingers squeezed. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. This is what you get for defying me, Anton said, almost gentle now. This is what happens when you forget your place. Leora's vision went dark at the edges. She clawed at the gauntlet, useless. Her lungs burned. Somewhere far away she heard Kyle roaring, heard the crowd shouting, but it was all fading. Then she remembered. The suit wasn't sealed. There were gaps, ventilation, joints, places where the plating didn't quite meet. And Anton, arrogant Anton, had gotten close enough that she could reach one. With the last of her strength, Leora jammed her fingers into the neck joint of the suit and pulled. A wire came loose. Then another. Sparks flew. The suit jerked, servos screaming. Anton cursed, and the gauntlet released her. Leora dropped, hit the ground hard, gasping. "What did you little—" The suit's movements turned erratic, one leg locked up. The cannon fired randomly, blasting a chunk out of the fortress wall. Anton was screaming inside, trying to regain control. "Now!" Leora choked out. "Kael, now!" Kael didn't need to be told twice. He shifted mid-run, massive black wolf tearing across the clearing. He hit the suit like a battering ram, claws finding every gap Leora had created, tearing deeper. The suit toppled backward, crashing to the ground. Anton triggered something inside. Emergency measures. Blades extended from the gauntlets, slashing wildly. One caught Kael across the shoulder, deep enough that blood sprayed. He yelped, but didn't stop, jaws clamping down on the suit's arm and wrenching. Metal screamed. The arm tore free. Then Sarah was there with half the court. All of them shifted, all of them attacking the suit from different angles. It was like watching wolves take down a mechanical beast. Coordinated, vicious, relentless. The helmet cracked. Inside, Anton's face was visible, pale and terrified. "Wait!" he screamed. "I surrender! Kael's jaws closed around the helmet and crushed it. Silence fell. Anton's body slumped inside the ruined suit, unmoving. The battle was over. Leora tried to stand, couldn't. Everything hurt. Kael shifted back to human, bleeding heavily from the shoulder wound, and staggered to her side. "You okay?" he asked. "Define okay." He laughed, pained. "Fair point." Sarah approached, fur still bristling. "The threat is eliminated. Anton's forces are retreating. You won." "We won," Leora corrected. "Sure, whatever." Sarah looked at Kael. "That wound isn't healing. He got you with the same tech that killed Marcus. You need medical attention now, or you're dead in an hour." Kael's face went carefully blank. "Understood." They got him inside down to the medical chamber, a stone room lined with herbs and tools that looked medieval. An old healer, grizzled and scarred, examined the wound and shook his head. The blade was poisoned, not regular poison, something designed specifically to prevent regeneration. "It's spreading. I can slow it, but I can't stop it." "How long?" Kael asked. 2 days, maybe 3. The room went silent. "There has to be something," Leora said. "Some way to—" "There isn't," the healer said flatly. "This poison was made to kill alphas. Nothing I have can counter it." Vaughn appeared in the doorway, expression unreadable. "The council is convening. They need to discuss succession." "I'm not dead yet," Kael growled. "No, but you will be, and we need to be prepared." Vaughn's eyes moved to Leora. "Unless your miracle worker has another trick up her sleeve." Leora looked at Kael, at the wound that was already turning black at the edges, spreading like ink through his veins. She could feel the curse inside him panicking, thrashing, trying to heal damage it couldn't touch. An idea formed. Terrible, risky, probably impossible. "There might be one way," she said slowly. Everyone turned to stare. "The bond," she continued, "it connects us. What if I could use it to take some of the poison, split the load between us?" "That's insane," Sarah said. "It would kill you both." "Maybe. Or maybe it would give his body enough time to fight back on its own." The healer looked interested despite himself. "In theory, if the bond is strong enough, but the pain would be extraordinary, and there's no guarantee it would work." "I'll do it," Leora said. "No," Kael said immediately. "Absolutely not. It's not your choice." "Yes, it is. You're my mate. I don't let you throw your life away for what? For you?" Leora grabbed his uninjured hand. "You saved me. Multiple times. Let me return the favor." "This is different." "How?" "Because if you die, I die anyway." His voice cracked. "The bond goes both ways. If your heart stops, mine stops. So your brilliant plan just kills us both faster." Leora hadn't known that. The realization hit like cold water. "Then what do you suggest?" she asked quietly. Kael leaned back against the table, exhaustion and pain etched into every line of his face. I don't know. Let me think. He didn't get to finish. The fortress shook. Somewhere above, something exploded. Alarms started blaring. Vaughn cursed and ran. Sarah shifted and bolted after him. The healer grabbed supplies and followed. Cale tried to stand, stumbled. Leora caught him. What now? She demanded. I don't know, but it's not good. They made it to the main hall just as Vaughn returned, face grim. Anton had a fail-safe, some kind of dead man's switch built into the suit. When his heart stopped, it triggered an airstrike. Missiles are inbound. We have maybe 3 minutes. Evacuate, Kael ordered. To where? The thorn wall is behind us. Anton's army is in front. We're surrounded. Then we fight our way out. With what forces? Half our fighters are injured from the battle. You can barely stand. This is a massacre, Sarah finished, appearing from another corridor. They're boxing us in deliberately. This was never about getting the girl back. This was about eliminating the Draven court entirely. Leora's blood went cold. Anton he didn't have the resources for... He had a backer, Vaughn said. Someone with money, technology, and a very strong interest in seeing this kingdom fall. The suit, the poison, the missiles, it's all too coordinated. Who? Kael demanded. Does it matter? They're coming either way. The ground shook again, closer this time. Through the windows, Leora could see lights in the sky. Incoming ordnance. This was it. Everything they'd survived, everything they'd fought for, about to be wiped out in fire and smoke. Unless... The bond, Leora said. You said it goes both ways. That if I die, you die. Kael's eyes narrowed. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that if the bond is that strong, it might work in reverse. If I give you a command, a really strong command, backed by everything I have, could it override the poison? Force your body to heal? That's not how it works. You don't know that. You said yourself the bond is stronger than anything you've felt before. What if we push it? What if I stake everything on one command and see if your curse listens? The healer, still nearby, made a thoughtful sound. It's theoretically possible, if the command was absolute enough, if she meant it with everything she was. But the cost would be what? Leora pressed. Your life. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. That kind of command would burn through your life force, use you up from the inside. You'd have hours, maybe a day. Another explosion, close enough to rattle teeth. Kael grabbed Leora's shoulders. No, find another way. There is no other way. Then we die together. I'm not letting you top. Kael, listen to me. She pressed her hands to his chest, feeling his heartbeat, irregular and weakening. If you die, the kingdom falls. Sarah becomes queen, sure, but she's not strong enough to hold off whoever's funding this attack. Your people will be scattered, hunted, killed. Everything you've protected falls apart. I don't care. Yes, you do. You care more than anything. Leora's eyes burned. So let me do this. Let me give you the command that saves everyone. Please. You'll die. I was going to die anyway, remember? This way. At least it means something. Kael stared at her, and she watched him break, watched duty and desire tear him apart from the inside. I can't, he whispered. You have to. The missiles were maybe a minute out now. The entire fortress was evacuating, wolves streaming through passages, children crying, warriors preparing for a battle they couldn't win. Sarah appeared again. Kael, we need orders, now. He looked at Leora one last time, something desperate and defeated in his eyes. Then he nodded. Do it, he said. Leora took his face in her hands, stood on her toes, and pressed her forehead to his. The bond flared between them, brilliant and burning. Kael Draven, she said, and power flooded her voice, every scrap of will, every ounce of strength she had left. I command you to live. Your body will purge this poison. Your curse will heal you. You will survive this, and you will protect your people, and you will not give up. Do you understand me? You will live. The bond exploded. Pain like nothing she'd ever felt tore through Leora, burning from the inside out. She felt her life force pouring into Kael, felt the command sinking into his bones, his blood, his curse. The poison fought back, but the bond was stronger. The curse, given absolute direction, became absolute power. Kale's wound started to close. The black veins receded. His heartbeat steadied, strengthened, and Leora collapsed. Kale caught her, lowering her to the ground. His eyes were clear now, fully amber, but fully aware. Healed. "No," he said. "No, you're not. You can't." "I can," she whispered. "I did." "Leora. Get them out. Save them." She smiled, tasted blood. "That's an order, too." His face twisted with grief and fury, but he stood because she'd commanded him to live, to protect, to fight. "Sarah," he roared. "Get everyone to the eastern tunnels, now!" Sarah didn't argue, just started barking orders, organizing the evacuation. Kale looked down at Leora one last time. "I'll come back for you." "I know." Then he was gone, shifted and running, leading his people to safety while the world exploded around them. Leora lay on the cold stone floor, feeling her heartbeat slow. The bond was still there, thinner now, stretched to breaking. She could feel Kyle fighting through the fortress, could feel the curse unleashed and devastating, tearing through anyone foolish enough to stand in his way. She'd saved him. Whatever happened next, she'd done that much. The ceiling collapsed somewhere close. Fire and smoke poured in. Leora closed her eyes and waited for the end, but it didn't come. Instead, hands grabbed her, multiple sets, lifting her, carrying her. She tried to open her eyes, couldn't. "Move!" someone shouted. "Vaughn? Get her to the tunnels. She's dying. She's not dead yet. Move!" They ran. Leora felt the world blur around her, felt heat and cold and pain that seemed distant now, like it was happening to someone else. Then darkness. The tunnels. Stone walls pressing close, more hands. The healer's voice. "Lay her down, carefully." "Can you save her?" That was Sarah. "I don't know, maybe. If..." The bond pulsed. Once. Twice. And Leora felt something impossible. Kyle, through the bond, forcing his own life force back through the connection, refusing to accept what she'd done, fighting her command with everything he had. "You stubborn," she tried to say, but couldn't form the words. The healer gasped. "He's reversing it. The bond. He's trying to give her his strength." "Will it work?" Vaughn demanded. "It might kill them both. Or save them both. There's no way to know." The world faded in and out. Leora felt Kyle's presence beside her even though he was miles away, felt his desperate refusal to let her go. The curse, bent to his will now, poured energy back through their bond. It shouldn't have worked, but somehow, impossibly, her heartbeat steadied. "She's breathing," the healer said, wonder in his voice. How is she breathing?" "Because he won't let her die," Sarah said quietly. "Even if it destroys him." Leora's eyes cracked open. The tunnel ceiling swam above her. Faces crowded close. Sarah, Vaughn, the healer, a dozen others. "Where?" she croaked. "Safe," Vaughn said. "For now. The fortress is gone, completely leveled, but everyone got out." "Kale?" "Fighting a rearguard action, buying us time to escape deeper into the territory. He needs you to stay alive." Sarah cut her off. "That's what he needs. So stop trying to die and let us work." Leora wanted to argue but didn't have the strength. She closed her eyes again, felt the bond humming between her and Kyle, felt his absolute stubborn refusal to survive without her. Somewhere in the dark she smiled. They'd beaten Anton, survived the missiles, saved the kingdom, and somehow, against all odds, they were both still breathing. Hours later, or maybe days, time was hard to track, Leora woke to find Kyle sitting beside her in the dark tunnel. He looked terrible, exhausted, covered in blood and ash, eyes haunted, but alive. "Hi," she whispered. He didn't answer, just took her hand and held it so tight it almost hurt. "I told you to live," she said. "I didn't say anything about being miserable. You tried to die for me. I tried to save you." "Same thing." "Not really." He finally looked at her, and the raw emotion in his face made her chest ache. Don't ever do that again. Can't promise that. Lyora, you would have done the same for me. You did do the same for me when you forced the bond to reverse. So don't lecture me about sacrifice. He was quiet for a moment. Then, fair point. We're even now. We're not even close to even. But his grip on her hand softened slightly. The council wants to know what happens next. The fortress is gone. Anton's backer, whoever they are, knows where we were. We can't rebuild in the same place. So we move. Where? Leora thought about it. About the Thornwall, the wild territory, the kingdom that had become hers, whether she'd meant it to or not. Deeper, she said, into the heart of the territory. Somewhere they can't reach us with their technology and their weapons. Somewhere we have the advantage. Kael's smile was small but genuine. You're starting to think like a queen. Don't get used to it. I'm mostly just winging it. Could have fooled me. They sat in silence for a while, both too exhausted for more words. Around them, the Draven court huddled in the darkness, wounded and homeless, but alive. And above, in the ruins of their fortress, whoever had funded Anton's attack was probably celebrating. But they'd made one critical mistake. They'd failed to kill the Alpha King, and now he had nothing left to lose. 3 days in the tunnels, and Leora learned that surviving an explosion was easier than surviving the aftermath. The Draven court had split into factions almost immediately. Half wanted to surrender, negotiate with whoever had funded the attack. The other half wanted blood. Sarah kept them from tearing each other apart, but barely. And Kael? Kael was somewhere between feral and functional, the curse prowling just beneath his skin, held in check only by sheer willpower and the bond that tethered him to Leora. She could feel it constantly now, his rage, his grief, the way the curse wanted to consume everything in fire and violence. We need to move soon, Vaughn said, crouching beside the small fire they'd managed in the widest section of tunnel. Food's running low, water's worse, and morale is non-existent, Sarah finished. She sat across from him, sharpening a blade that had seen better days. Half the pack thinks we're already dead. The other half thinks we should have died fighting instead of running. We didn't run, Kael said from the shadows. We survived. There's a difference. Tell that to the families who lost people. Sarah didn't look up. 3 children died in the collapse. 7 warriors, the healer's mate. They're not interested in semantics. Kael flinched. Leora felt it through the bond, guilt sharp enough to cut. Where's the king now? Someone asked from deeper in the tunnel. A young wolf, barely out of adolescence, eyes too old for his face. Where was he when the fortress fell? Saving your ungrateful ass, Vaughn snapped. Show some respect. Respect for what? A king who brought a human into our court and got us all killed? Silence fell. Every eye turned to Leora. She stood slowly, ignoring the way her body protested. The command she'd given Kael had burned through her faster than the healer predicted. She had maybe hours left, not days, but she'd be damned if she spent them hiding in the dark. Say that again, she said to the young wolf. He stood too, defiant. You heard me. You brought this down on us. Anton, the attack, all of it. We were fine before you showed up. Were you? Leora stepped closer. Because from where I'm standing, you were already falling apart. Your king was losing control, your council was plotting succession, and your kingdom was one bad day from civil war. I didn't cause that. I just gave you something else to blame. You're human, and you're a coward. Leora's voice cut like glass. You want someone to be angry at? Fine. Be angry at me. But don't you dare pretend this kingdom was stable before I arrived. Don't pretend your curse wasn't eating your king alive. And don't pretend you would have survived Anton's attack without the plan that I came up with. The young wolf's face went red. You almost got the king killed. I saved the king multiple times, which is more than you've done. That's enough, Kael said, emerging from the shadows. His eyes glowed amber in the firelight. Both of you. The young wolf took one look at Kael's face and sat down fast. Kael turned to the assembled court, maybe 200 wolves, all that remained of a kingdom that had once numbered in the thousands. Leora's right. We were dying long before she crossed the thorn wall. The curse was winning. I was losing control. The council was preparing for my execution. She didn't cause our problems, she just forced us to face them. And look where that got us, someone muttered. Alive, Kyle said flatly. It got us alive. Which is more than we'd be if we'd stayed in that fortress and tried to fight conventionally. Anton's backer wanted us trapped and dead. They almost got their wish, but we're still breathing, and that means we still have options. What options? Sarah asked. Not challenging, just genuinely curious. We're homeless, hunted, running low on everything. What exactly are you planning? Kyle looked at Leora. She felt his uncertainty through the bond, felt him reaching for her strength because his own was running on fumes. She gave him a small nod. He turned back to the court. We go deeper, into the heart of the wild territory, where technology doesn't work and human weapons can't reach. We rebuild somewhere they can't find us, and we figure out who's funding these attacks and why. And then? Vaughn asked. And then we make them regret ever coming after us. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some approving, some skeptical. Marcus, the scarred counselor who'd been injured by Anton's weapon, stood slowly. His wounds were still healing, barely. You're proposing we abandon our ancestral lands, everything we've built, everything we've protected for generations. I'm proposing we survive, Kyle said. The rest we can rebuild. Under whose leadership? Yours? Marcus gestured at him. You can barely control your curse. You're bonded to a human who's dying as we speak, and you want us to follow you deeper into territory that even we fear? Yes. The bluntness of it seemed to catch Marcus off guard. He blinked. That's insane. Probably, but it's what we've got. Cale's eyes swept the crowd. Anyone who wants to leave, who thinks they can negotiate with Anton's backers, cut a deal, survive on their own, you're free to go. I won't stop you. But if you stay, you follow me, and you trust that I'll get us through this. No one moved. Then, slowly, a woman near the back stood. Old, gray-haired, with scars that told stories of violence survived. I'll follow, my king. Another stood, then another. Within minutes, 3/4 of the court was on their feet. Marcus looked around, expression unreadable. Then he sat back down. Fine, we go deeper. But if this fails, if we lose more people because of your human, then I'll answer for it, Kyle said. Personally. Marcus nodded once. The matter was settled. Sarah waited until this crowd dispersed before approaching Kyle and Leora. That bought you maybe a week. After that, if things aren't improving, they'll turn on you, both of you. I know, Kyle said. Do you have an actual plan? Or were you just making inspiring speeches? Leora answered before Kyle could. We find out who's funding the attacks. We cut off their resources. And we turn their weapons against them. Sarah raised an eyebrow. How? The suit. Anton's suit. It was in the fortress when it collapsed. If we can recover it, even pieces of it, we can reverse engineer the technology, figure out who made it, where it came from. That's assuming it survived the blast, Vaughn said, joining them, and assuming we can even get back to the ruins without getting killed. It survived, Leora said with more confidence than she felt. That thing was built to withstand serious damage. And as for getting there, she looked at Kyle. You know the territory better than anyone. Is there a way in that avoids Anton's forces? Kyle thought for a moment. Maybe. There's an old smuggler's route that runs beneath the eastern wall, comes up about 1/2 mile from where the fortress stood. It's narrow, unstable, and probably collapsed in places, but it might work. Then that's our play, Leora said. Our play? Sarah looked at her. You're not going. You can barely stand. I'm the one who broke the suit. I know its weak points. You need me. What we need is for you to not die and take the king with you, Sarah said bluntly. The bond goes both ways, remember? You collapse out there. He collapses. Then we're all dead. Leora hated that she was right. Fine. Then Kyle doesn't go either. Send a team. No, Kyle said. I'm going. If the suit's there, I need to see it. Need to understand what we're up against. That's idiotic. It's necessary. He turned to Sarah. You're in command while I'm gone. If I'm not back in 12 hours, assume I'm dead and proceed with succession. Sarah's jaw tightened. You're really doing this? I really am. Then I'm coming with you, Leora said. Absolutely not. You don't get to make that call. Yes, I do. You're my mate, my responsibility, and you're mine. Leora stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. The bond works both ways, remember? If you're out there and something goes wrong, I'll feel it, I'll know, and I'll do something stupid trying to save you, so we might as well do the stupid thing together and save time. Kael stared at her, frustration and something that might have been affection warring in his expression. You're impossible. You're one to talk. He sighed, defeated. Fine, but you follow my lead, and if I tell you to run, yeah, I'll run, sure. Leora, I promise, mostly. Vaughn coughed, barely hiding a laugh. For what it's worth, I think you're both insane. But I'm coming too. Someone needs to keep you idiots alive. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose. This is a terrible plan. Got a better one? Kael asked. No, which is the only reason I'm not stopping you. She looked at the three of them. Take Marcus. He's injured but still functional, and he knows tech better than anyone else here. You'll need his expertise if you actually find the suit. Marcus hates me, Leora pointed out. He hates everyone. Don't take it personally. Sarah turned to Kael. 12 hours. After that, I'm assuming command and moving the court deeper. With or without you. Understood. They left an hour later, Kael, Leora, Vaughn, and Marcus, plus 2 younger wolves who'd volunteered as scouts. The smuggler's tunnel was exactly as bad as Kael had described, narrow, dark, wet, and collapsing in places. Twice they had to dig their way through cave-ins. Once, the tunnel opened into a cavern filled with water, and they had to swim through freezing darkness for what felt like forever. By the time they reached the eastern exit, Leora's body was done. She made it 3 steps into open air before her legs gave out. Kael caught her before she hit the ground. That's it. You're going back. No. She forced herself upright, leaning heavily on him. I just need a minute. You need a week in bed and actual medical care. We don't have a week. Marcus, examining the exit, made a disgusted sound. If you two are done being dramatic, we have a problem. They looked. The fortress ruins were visible in the distance, but so were Anton's forces. Dozens of armed men, walking patrols, setting up some kind of perimeter. They're guarding it, Vaughn said. Why? Because whoever's funding this knows the suit is valuable, Marcus said. They want it recovered intact, probably to study, improve, mass produce. Then we get to it first, Kael said. Against that many soldiers? One of the young scouts shook his head. That's suicide. Not if we're smart about it. Leora studied the patrol patterns, the gaps in coverage. They're expecting a frontal assault, a pack of wolves charging in. They're not expecting stealth. We're not exactly built for stealth, Vaughn pointed out. You're not. I am. Leora straightened, ignoring the way her vision swam. I go in alone, human, unarmed. If they catch me, I'm just a lost refugee from the attack. They won't kill me immediately. They'll want to question me first. That buys you time to... No, Kael said immediately. Absolutely not. It's the only way. It's a death sentence. They'll recognize you. You were with Anton. His men saw you. Some of them maybe, but not all. And even if they do, what are they going to do? Shoot me on sight? That alerts everyone to their position. They'll take me prisoner, which gives you an opening to attack while they're distracted. Marcus was nodding slowly. It could work. It's insane, Kael said. It's tactical, Marcus corrected. She's right. A lone human is less threatening than a pack of wolves, and if they do take her prisoner, we can use the confusion to strike. Kael looked at Leora, and she felt his terror through the bond, not for himself, for her. Trust me, she said quietly. I do. That's the problem. 12 hours, remember? We don't have time to debate. He closed his eyes, jaw working. Then, fine. But I'm tracking you the entire time, through the bond. If anything goes wrong, you'll know and you'll come get me. She managed a smile, just like always. They worked out the details quickly. Leora would approach from the south, pretending to be injured and disoriented. The wolves would circle around to the north, staying downwind, ready to attack on Kael's signal. If she got caught, she'd try to stall. If she got through, she'd mark the suit's location and get out. Simple. Probably impossible. But they were out of better options. Leora started walking, leaving her weapons behind. She rubbed dirt on her face, tore her clothes a bit more, made herself look like exactly what Anton's men would expect, a survivor fleeing the destruction. The first patrol spotted her within minutes. "Hey, you! Stop right there!" Leora stopped, raising her hands, shaking because that part wasn't hard to fake. "Please, I'm not armed. I'm just trying to—" 3 soldiers surrounded her, guns raised. One of them was older, scarred, clearly in charge. He studied her face. "I know you," he said slowly. "You were with Anton, at the fortress." "I was his prisoner," Leora said. "He locked me up. When the attack came, I escaped in the chaos. I've been running ever since." "Running from what?" "The wolves. They're hunting survivors, killing anyone who—" "Bullshit." The scarred soldier stepped closer. "Anton's dead because of you. I was there. I saw what you did to his suit." Leora's heart sank. "I didn't. Don't lie to me." He grabbed her arm, yanked her forward. "You're coming with us. The boss will want to talk to you personally." They dragged her toward the center of the ruins, where a command tent had been set up. Inside, more soldiers, more weapons. And sitting behind a makeshift desk, examining something on a tablet, was a woman Leora had never seen before. Tall, middle-aged, expensively dressed despite the surroundings. She looked up when they entered, and her eyes, cold, calculating, locked on Leora. "Well," she said, "this is unexpected." "Found her trying to sneak past the perimeter," the scarred soldier said. "Claims she was Anton's prisoner. I don't buy it." The woman stood, circled Leora slowly. Leora Vance, the runaway bride, the girl who somehow convinced the Beast King to bond with her. "I've heard a lot about you." "Can't say the same." "No, I suppose you wouldn't know me. I prefer to work behind the scenes." She stopped in front of Leora, smiling. "My name is Elena Cross. I funded Anton's little crusade, provided the technology, the resources, the strategy, all of it." Leora's blood went cold. "Why?" "Because the Draven Pack has been a thorn in my side for years. They control territory I need, resources I want, and they refuse to negotiate, so I decided to remove the obstacle." Elena's smile widened. "Anton was supposed to retrieve you and eliminate Kael in the process. He failed spectacularly, but his death served its purpose. It destroyed the fortress, scattered the pack, and gave me exactly what I needed." "The suit," Leora said. "Very good." "Yes, the suit. Prototype technology, incredibly expensive, and now buried somewhere in this rubble. I need it recovered. Intact if possible, but even pieces will do. Once I have it back, I can refine the design, mass-produce it, and use it to eliminate the remaining Draven wolves permanently. You'll never find them. They're gone. Deep into territory you can't reach. For now, perhaps, but they'll run out of food eventually, water, hope. They'll emerge desperate and weak, and when they do, I'll be waiting." Elena returned to her desk. "Take her to holding. We'll use her as bait. Kael won't be able to resist trying to save his precious mate, and when he comes for her, we'll be ready." They dragged Leora out, threw her in a cage made of reinforced steel. Through the bars she could see the ruins, the patrols, the excavation equipment being set up to dig for the suit. She closed her eyes and reached for the bond. Kael's presence flooded her immediately. She felt his fury, his fear, his absolute determination to tear through every soldier between them. Not yet, she thought at him, hoping he could feel it. "Wait, I'll find the suit, then you come." His response was wordless but clear. He didn't want to wait. He wanted blood. "Trust me," she insisted. A long pause, then reluctantly, 12 hours. That's all you get." Leora opened her eyes and studied her surroundings. The cage was solid, no obvious weaknesses. Guards rotated every hour, but they weren't watching the ruins. They were watching for external threats, which meant no one noticed when Leora started paying very close attention to the excavation site. It took 3 hours, but she finally saw it. A glint of metal beneath rubble, partially exposed. The suit's arm, still intact. She marked the location in her mind, traced the patrol patterns, calculated the timing. Then she reached for the bond again. Northwest corner, 30 feet from the tent. The arm is there. I can see it. Kael's response was immediate. Good. Now get out. Working on it. The lock on her cage was electronic, keyed to a specific frequency. But the guards were human, which meant they got bored. Lazy. One of them had left his rifle leaning against the cage while he took a smoke break. Leora waited until he turned away, then grabbed the rifle through the bars, yanked it close, and smashed the stock against the lock. Once. Twice. The third hit broke something inside. The door swung open. Alarms blared instantly. Leora ran. Soldiers shouted, gave chase. Bullets tore past her. She zigzagged through the ruins, using rubble for cover, heading for the northwest corner. Behind her, she heard growls. Kael and the others had heard the alarm. They were coming. She reached the suit's arm, dropped beside it, and started digging with her bare hands. The metal was hot, still radiating energy from whatever power source it used. She could see circuitry, components, things that looked impossibly advanced. There! A soldier spotted her. Don't shoot! We need her alive! Too late. Kael exploded out of the ruins in full wolf form, a black nightmare of fur and fury. He hit the first soldier with enough force to snap bones, then the second, then the third. Vaughn and Marcus weren't far behind. Both shifted, both tearing through the patrols like they were made of paper. The young scouts went for the tent. Elena emerged, gun raised, and managed one shot before Vaughn's jaws closed around her wrist. She screamed, dropped the weapon. Kael reached Leora, shifted back to human long enough to grab her. You okay? I'm fine. The suit, I see it. He looked at Marcus. Can you carry it? Marcus shifted back, examined the arm. It's heavy, but yeah, I can manage. Then we move. Now! They ran, Kael carrying Leora, Marcus hauling the suit's arm, Vaughn and the scouts covering their retreat. Behind them, the remaining soldiers tried to give chase, but stood no chance against wolves who knew this territory. They made it back to the tunnel entrance, down into the darkness, and collapsed once they were deep enough to be safe. Leora's body finally gave up. She slumped against Kael, consciousness fading. Hey, he said, urgent. Stay with me. Did we get it? She mumbled. Yeah, we got it. Good. She smiled. Told you I had a plan. Your plan almost got you killed. But it didn't, so technically I'm a genius. Kael's laugh was strained. Technically, you're insane. Same thing. Marcus was already examining the suit's arm, fingers tracing circuits. This is incredible. Advanced beyond anything I've seen. If I can reverse engineer even a fraction of this. He looked up. We might actually have a chance. How long? Kael asked. To figure out who made it? Maybe a week? To duplicate it? Months, years. We don't have years. Then we don't duplicate it. We improvise. Use what we've got, combine it with our own strengths. Marcus's eyes gleamed. They want to hunt us with technology? We'll show them what happens when you give wolves teeth that bite back. Vaughn leaned against the tunnel wall, breathing hard. Did anyone else see Elena's face when we grabbed this? She looked terrified. Good, Sarah said, appearing from deeper in the tunnel. Let her be terrified. Let them all be terrified. She looked at the suit's arm, then at Kael. You actually pulled it off. Leora pulled it off, Kael corrected. We just followed her lead. Sarah's eyes moved to Leora, who was barely conscious in Kael's arms. The human who was supposed to die days ago just infiltrated an enemy camp, recovered critical intelligence, and escaped alive. I'm starting to think she might actually be one of us. She is one of us, Kael said quietly. She's been one of us since the moment she crossed the thorn wall. Sarah nodded slowly. Then we protect her, like we'd protect any member of the pack. It wasn't much, but coming from Sarah, it was everything. They carried Leora deeper into the tunnels, back to where the court waited. When they emerged with the suit's arm, exhausted but alive, a cheer went up. The young wolf who'd challenged Leora earlier stepped forward. You really did it. We really did it, Leora corrected, voice weak but clear. He hesitated, then nodded. I was wrong. About you. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, just don't underestimate me again. A smile cracked his young face. Yes, ma'am. Kale carried Leora to the small space they'd claimed as quarters, laid her down carefully. The healer was there immediately, checking her vitals, shaking his head. She shouldn't be alive, he muttered. The command she gave you should have killed her days ago. Then why isn't she dead? What? Kale demanded. Because you're keeping her alive. Through the bond. You're pouring your own life force into her, sustaining her when her body should have given up. The healer looked up. It's remarkable and completely unsustainable. Eventually, one of you will burn out, probably both. Then we fix it, Kyle said. There's nothing to fix. The bond is doing exactly what it's supposed to, connecting you. The problem is the intensity. Most bonds are subtle. Yours is consuming. So we dial it back. You can't. It doesn't work that way. The healer started packing up his supplies. All I can tell you is this. Whatever you're doing, it's keeping her alive for now. But for now, won't last forever. He left. Kale sat beside Leora, took her hand. Hear that? He said quietly. You're stuck with me. Can't even die properly. Who says I want to die? Leora's eyes cracked open. I've got too much to do. Like what? Like help Marcus figure out that suit, like move the court deeper, like prove to Sarah that I'm not completely useless. You already proved that. Then I'll prove it again, just to be sure. Kale's smile was soft, genuine. You're something else, you know that? I've been told. She squeezed his hand. We're going to survive this. I know. I mean really survive, not just scrape by. We're going to rebuild, and we're going to be stronger than before. You sound very confident for someone who can barely move. That's because I am confident. We have the suit, we have information, we have each other. That's more than we had 3 days ago. Kyle was quiet for a moment. Then, when this is over, when we've beaten Elena and whoever else is coming for us, what do you want? Leora thought about it. I want to not be running anymore. I want to wake up without expecting someone to try to kill me. She paused. I want to choose my own life. For once. Is that too much to ask? No, it's exactly enough. He leaned down, pressed his forehead to hers. The bond hummed between them, warm and steady. Outside their small corner of safety, Marcus was already taking the suit apart, studying its secrets. The court was settling in for another night in the tunnels, wounded but alive. And somewhere above, Elena Cross was probably already planning her next move. But for the first time since crossing the thorn wall, Leora felt something that might have been hope. They'd survived the impossible, turned defeat into opportunity, taken the first step toward fighting back. And if they could do that, they could do anything. Marcus figured it out on day 6. Leora was sitting with Kyle when Marcus came running through the tunnels, the suit's arm clutched in both hands, eyes wild with discovery. I know who made it, he said, breathless. And I know how to stop them. The entire court gathered. Marcus laid the arm on a flat stone, pointing to markings etched into the metal that Leora hadn't noticed before. This isn't military tech. It's corporate. See this logo? Cross Industries. Elena's company. They've been developing advanced warfare technology for years, selling to the highest bidder. But this, he tapped the circuitry. This is prototype level, which means it's not mass-produced yet. Which means if we can destroy her production facility, we cut off the supply at the source. Where's the facility? Kyle asked. 40 miles north. Built into the mountains, heavily fortified. She's got maybe 100 guards, automated defenses, the works. Marcus's smile was sharp. But the defenses are designed to stop conventional attacks, not wolves. Vaughn leaned forward. You're proposing we assault a fortified military facility with what, 200 exhausted wolves and a stolen arm? I'm proposing we use their own technology against them. The suit runs on a specific power frequency. I can modify it, turn it into a localized EMP. Set it off inside the facility, and every piece of tech Elena has goes dead. Guns, defenses, communications, all of it. Sarah's eyes narrowed. And we'd be immune because we're wolves. We don't rely on technology. We rely on teeth and claws. Marcus looked at Kael. One strike. Fast and brutal. We get in, plant the EMP, get out before they can regroup. Then we finish them. It's risky, Sarah said. Everything's risky, Leora said. But if we don't stop Elena now, she'll just rebuild. Come after us again. And next time we might not be lucky enough to steal one of her suits. Kael looked around the gathered court. Exhausted faces, wounded bodies, but something else too. Hope, determination, the same fire that had kept them alive this long. We vote, he said. Attack now or wait and rebuild first. Show of hands. Every hand went up. Even the young wolf who'd challenged Leora raised his slowly. Then we attack, Kael said. Tomorrow night. Marcus, how long to modify the suit? 12 hours, maybe less if I skip sleep. Don't skip sleep. We need you sharp. Kael turned to Sarah. Pick 20 of our best fighters. Fast, smart, expendable if it comes to that. Expendable? Sarah raised an eyebrow. You know what I mean. She did. She nodded. Vaughn stood. I'm going. Obviously. Obviously, Kael agreed. Me too, Leora said. The entire room went silent. Kael turned to her slowly. No. Yes. Leora, you can barely walk. You're being kept alive by sheer stubbornness and whatever life force I'm pumping into you through the bond. You're not going into combat. I'm the only one who knows how the suit works from the inside. I broke it once. I can break it again if something goes wrong. Marcus knows the theory. I know the reality. There's a difference. Kael's jaw worked. She felt his frustration through the bond, felt him searching for an argument that would work. He wouldn't find one. She was right, and they both knew it. If you die out there, he said quietly, I die too. You understand that? Then we better not die. That's not a plan. It's the only plan we have. Leora stood, swaying slightly. Kael caught her elbow, steadied her. I didn't survive this long just to sit in a cave while you finish what we started together. Sarah made a sound that might have been approval. The human has more spine than half our warriors. Let her go. Thank you, Leora said. Don't thank me yet. You'll probably die horribly. Story of my life. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Marcus worked on the EMP, muttering to himself about frequencies and fail-safes. The chosen fighters sharpened claws, tested their shifts, ran drills in the wider tunnels. Sarah organized supply lines, evacuation routes, in case everything went wrong. And Kael tried very hard not to think about what would happen if Leora didn't make it back. That night, lying in their small corner of the tunnels, Leora felt his fear through the bond. It was different from the curse, different from the rage that usually filled him. This was quieter, deeper. I know you're not sleeping, she said. Neither are you. I'm too excited. Liar. She smiled in the dark. Okay, I'm terrified. Happy? Not particularly. He shifted closer, and she felt his warmth along her back. We could still call this off. Find another way. There is no other way. You know that. I know. Doesn't mean I have to like it. You don't have to like it. You just have to trust me. He was quiet for a long moment, then, I do trust you. More than I've trusted anyone in years. That's what scares me. Leora rolled over to face him. In the dim light from distant fires, she could just make out his features. The scars, the sharp angles, the eyes that glowed faint amber even now. When this is over, she said, what do you want? I want you alive. Everything else is negotiable. Be serious. I am serious. His hand found hers, fingers threading together. A month ago, I was ready to die. Ready to let the curse win, let Sarah take over, let everything fall apart. Then you showed up and gave me a reason to fight. Not for the kingdom, not for the pack, for you. So yeah, what I want is for you to survive this. The rest we can figure out later. Leora's chest tightened. That's a lot of pressure. You can handle it. What if I can't? Then we fail together. But we don't fail alone. She kissed him. It was brief, gentle, nothing like the violence and chaos that had defined their relationship so far. Just two people, scared and exhausted, finding something solid to hold on to. When they pulled apart, Kael's smile was small but real. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hell. Can't wait. They left at dusk the next day, 22 wolves and one human moving through the forest like shadows. Marcus carried the modified suit arm in a reinforced pack, the EMP primed and ready. Vaughn took point, his senses sharper than anyone's. Sarah brought up the rear, watching for pursuit, and Kael stayed close to Leora, one hand always within reach. It took 4 hours to reach the facility. They stopped on a ridge overlooking the compound, massive concrete structure built into the mountainside, lights blazing, guards patrolling in shifts. Leora counted at least 50 visible soldiers, probably twice that inside. That's a lot of people, Vaughn observed. Good thing we're not people, Sarah said. Marcus studied the layout through a pair of salvaged binoculars. Main entrance is heavily defended, but there, he pointed. Ventilation shaft leads directly to the production floor where the suits are being built. If we can get inside, plant the EMP near the power core, it'll cascade through the entire system. How do we get to the shaft? Kyle asked. We don't. She does. Marcus nodded at Leora. It's too narrow for anyone shifted, but a human could fit. Leora looked at the shaft, maybe 2 feet wide, 50 feet up the side of a sheer concrete wall. You want me to climb that? I want you to get creative, because once you're inside and trigger the EMP, we have about 30 seconds before backup generators kick in. That's our window to attack. 30 seconds, Leora repeated. Great. Love that. Kale grabbed her arm, pulled her aside. This is insane. We'll find another way. There is no other way? You heard Marcus. Then I'll carry you up. You can't. You're too big, too heavy. The wall won't support you. She touched his face. I can do this. You can barely stand. I'm standing right now, aren't I? Leora. KL. She made him look at her. Trust me, one more time, please. His eyes burned amber, the curse rising in response to his fear. But he nodded. 30 seconds. That's all you get. After that, I'm coming for you whether the EMP works or not. I wouldn't expect anything less. They moved closer under cover of darkness. Leora approached the wall alone, Marcus's pack strapped to her back. The surface was rough concrete, offering just enough grip for fingers and toes. She started climbing. Every muscle screamed. The wound in her side, mostly healed but still tender, pulled with each movement. Twice her foot slipped and she had to catch herself with fingertips alone. But she kept climbing, inch by inch, until she reached the ventilation shaft. The cover was bolted shut. Of course it was. Leora pulled a knife from her belt, one of Vaughn's, wickedly sharp, and wedged it into the seam. She pried, twisted, felt something give. The cover came loose with a sound that seemed impossibly loud. She held her breath, waiting for alarms. Nothing. She pulled the cover away and squeezed into the shaft. It was tight, dark, and smelled like oil and ozone. She crawled forward, following Marcus's directions, until she reached a grate overlooking the production floor. Below, the facility was exactly as bad as she'd feared. Rows of suits in various stages of assembly, technicians working under harsh lights, armed guards at every exit. And in the center, on a raised platform, Elena Cross herself, overseeing everything. Leora found the power core, massive cylinder humming with energy, surrounded by safety barriers. She'd have to drop 15 feet, cross open floor, and reach it without being seen. Impossible. Obviously. She did it anyway. The grate came off silently. Leora lowered herself, hung for a moment, then dropped. She hit the floor in a crouch, rolled behind a partially assembled suit. No one shouted. No alarms yet. She moved between machines, staying low, heading for the power core. A technician walked past so close she could have touched him. She held her breath until he was gone. 10 feet from the core. 5. She pulled the modified suit arm from her pack, fingers finding the trigger Marcus had installed. Stop right there. Leora froze. Elena stood behind her, gun pointed steady. I knew you'd come. Knew Kyle wouldn't be able to resist. But I expected the attack to be more direct. This is disappointing. Leora stood slowly, hands visible. Then I guess you underestimated me. Clearly. Elena's smile was cold. What's in your hand? Nothing you need to worry about. I'll be the judge of that. Drop it. Leora's thumb found the trigger. No. Drop it or I shoot you. Then I shoot Kyle when he inevitably tries to save you. Then I wipe out what's left of your pathetic pack. You could try. Leora felt the bond flare in her chest, felt Kyle outside, felt his absolute certainty that he would tear through walls to reach her. Or you could walk away. Leave us alone, take your losses, and move on. Elena laughed. Why would I do that when I have you exactly where I want you? Because, Leora said, and triggered the EMP. The effect was instantaneous. Every light in the facility died. Every machine stopped. Elena's gun went dead in her hand, the electronic trigger useless. Shouts erupted, confusion spreading, and through the walls, Leora heard Kyle roar. The attack came from 3 sides simultaneously. Wolves poured through windows, doors, ventilation shafts, anywhere they could fit. Shifted and savage, they tore through guards who'd suddenly lost all their technological advantages. Gunfire was sporadic, ineffective. The wolves were too fast, too coordinated. Kale crashed through the main doors like they were made of paper, fully wolf, eyes blazing. He spotted Leora across the floor and charged. Elena tried to run. Sarah cut her off, teeth bared. Stay down, Sarah snarled, or I'll make this hurt. Elena stayed down. Leora ran toward Kyle, but something was wrong. She felt it through the bond, the curse surging, fed by violence and adrenaline, breaking free of his control. He wasn't stopping, wasn't slowing down. He was going feral. His eyes locked on her, but there was no recognition in them, just hunger. Kyle! She screamed. He kept coming. Leora did the only thing she could think of. She stepped directly into his path, stood her ground, and commanded him with everything she had left. Stop! The word hit him like a physical force. He skidded, claws tearing gouges in the concrete, fighting the command, fighting the bond. The curse roared inside him, demanding blood. But he stopped. 3 feet from her, trembling with the effort, every muscle locked, but he stopped. Leora moved closer, hands out. I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. Come back. A growl, low and dangerous. Kyle, please, we won. It's over. You don't have to fight anymore. The growl deepened. Leora placed her hand on his head, feeling the coarse fur, the heat radiating off him. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere, so come back to me. For a long moment, nothing happened. The curse held him, teetering on the edge of something neither of them would survive. Then, slowly, he shifted back. It was violent, bones cracking, muscles tearing and reforming. When it was done, Kyle knelt on the floor, human again, breathing hard. His eyes found hers, and this time they were aware. Terrified, but aware. Did I? No, you stopped. You came back. I almost, but you didn't. She pulled him to his feet. You listened, just like I knew you would. Around them, the battle was winding down. Most of Elena's guards had surrendered or fled. The facility was in ruins, suits destroyed, technology useless. Vaughn and Marcus were securing prisoners. Sarah had Elena on her knees, bleeding from a dozen cuts. It was over. Kale looked around, taking in the destruction, the victory they'd somehow achieved. Then he looked back at Leora. We did it, he said, like he couldn't quite believe it. We did it, she confirmed. He pulled her close, and she felt him shaking. Not from the curse this time, from relief. They brought Elena back to the tunnels in chains. The council convened immediately, all 12 members present for the first time since the fortress fell. Elena stood in the center of the circle, defiant despite everything. You can't hold me. My company has resources, connections. They'll come for me. Let them come, Sarah said. We'll be ready. You think destroying one facility stops anything? I have production sites in 6 countries, armed forces on 3 continents. You've won a battle, nothing more. Kael stepped forward. Then we'll win the next one, and the one after that, as many as it takes. You're delusional. You can't fight the entire modern world with teeth and claws. Watch us. He turned to the council. What's the sentence for attacking the Draven pack? For killing our people? Destroying our home? Marcus stood. Death, traditionally. Then tradition it is. Elena's face went white. You can't. I have rights. You lost your rights when you declared war on us, Sarah said coldly. Vaughn, take her outside. Make it quick. They dragged Elena away, still protesting. Leora didn't watch. She'd seen enough death to last a lifetime. When it was done, the council turned their attention to Kael and Leora. Marcus spoke first. The humans saved us. Multiple times. Without her, we'd all be dead. I propose we grant her full pack status. Make it official. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the court. Sarah stood. I second that proposal. All in favor? Every hand went up. Then it's decided. Sarah looked at Leora. As of now, you're one of us, fully, permanently, with all the rights and protections that entails. Leora felt something warm bloom in her chest. Acceptance. Finally. Thank you, she managed. Don't thank us yet. Being part of this pack means sharing our burdens, our fights, our losses. Sarah's smile was sharp. Think you can handle that? I've handled everything else so far. So you have. The council dispersed, leaving Kael and Leora alone in the chamber. He took her hand, threaded their fingers together. You okay? He asked. I'm alive. That's more than I expected a month ago. A month, he repeated. Has it really only been a month? Feels longer. Feels like forever. He pulled her close. What happens now? Now? We rebuild. Find a new home, figure out how to live without constantly running for our lives. She looked up at him. Sound good? Sounds impossible. We've done impossible before. His laugh was soft. Fair point. They found the new home 3 weeks later, deep in the heart of the wild territory where trees grew so thick that sunlight barely penetrated. A valley surrounded by cliffs, defensible and remote. The pack worked together to build shelters, establish perimeters, create something that felt like home. Leora worked alongside them, no longer an outsider, but a member. She still couldn't shift, still couldn't match their strength or speed, but she could strategize, organize, lead when needed. And slowly, the pack stopped seeing her as Kael's human and started seeing her as their own. The curse never fully left Kael. It was part of him, woven into his bones. But with Leora there, with the bond anchoring him, he learned to live with it, to use it when necessary, control it when not. They were sitting in the garden one evening. Leora had insisted on planting one, despite Vaughn's protests that it was impractical, when Sarah found them. We have a problem, she said. Kael sighed. There's always a problem. What is it this time? 3 packs to the east are asking for alliance. They've heard what we did to Elena Cross. They want our protection. 3 packs is a lot to take on. It's also a lot of strength, numbers we could use. Sarah looked at Leora. What do you think? Leora blinked. You're asking me? Your pack now. Your opinion matters. She thought about it. We take them, but on our terms. They don't just get protection, they contribute. Resources, fighters, knowledge. We build something bigger than just one pack. Sarah nodded slowly. I like it. A coalition, unified but diverse. She looked at Kael. Your mate has good instincts. I know, Kael said, smiling. After Sarah left, Leora leaned against him. A coalition. That could actually work. It could, if we're careful. When have we ever been careful? Never. But there's always a first time. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howled, not in fear or warning, but in celebration, in belonging. I never thought I'd end up here, Leora said quietly. Bonded to a cursed king, leading a pack of wolves, building a coalition. If you told me a month ago, I would have thought you were insane. And now? Now it feels right, like this is where I was always supposed to end up. Kael kissed the top of her head. For what it's worth, I'm glad you ran through that storm. Glad you crossed the thorn wall. Glad you told me to stop when every part of me wanted to kill you. Best decision I never made. What? I didn't decide to come here. I just ran. But somehow, I ended up exactly where I needed to be. With me. With you. With this pack. With this life. She turned to look at him. I'm not running anymore. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. The bond between them hummed, warm and steady. No longer a desperate lifeline, but a chosen connection. A partnership forged in survival and violence, and something that might have been love if either of them knew what that word really meant. Vaughn appeared from the tree line, grinning. Hate to interrupt, but Marcus wants to show you something. Says it's important. They followed him to Marcus's workshop, a cave system converted into a makeshift lab. Inside, Marcus stood over a table covered in schematics and components salvaged from Elena's facility. I've been working on something, he said. A way to level the playing field if anyone else comes after us with advanced tech. He held up a small device, no bigger than Leora's palm. Portable EMP. We can make dozens of them. Distribute them to every pack in the coalition. Anyone tries to attack us with suits or drones or whatever, we shut them down. That's brilliant, Leora said. It's also expensive. We'll need resources, materials, time. Then we get them, Kael said. Whatever it takes to protect the pack. Marcus nodded. I'll start production immediately. As they left the workshop, Leora felt something shift in her chest. Not the bond. Something else. A sense of purpose, of belonging. She'd run from a forced marriage and found a kingdom. She'd escaped imprisonment and found freedom. She'd given up her life to save someone else and somehow ended up more alive than ever. What are you thinking? Kael asked. I'm thinking I want to see what we build. This coalition. This new pack. I want to be part of it. You are part of it. You're the queen. The word still felt foreign, wrong, almost. But when she looked at the wolves gathering in the valley below, when she felt the bond connecting her to Kael and through him to the entire pack, it didn't feel quite so impossible. Then I guess I better start acting like one, she said. Kael's smile was wide and genuine. I think you already do. That night, the pack gathered for the first formal ceremony since the fortress fell. Kael stood before them all, Leora at his side, and spoke with a voice that carried authority and hope. A month ago, we were dying. Our home was destroyed, our people scattered, our future uncertain. But we survived. We fought back. And we won. He looked around the assembled wolves. Because of all of you. Because we refused to give up. Because we chose to stand together. Cheers erupted. Howls echoed through the valley. Now we build something new, something stronger. A coalition of packs, united not by fear, but by choice. By strength. By the belief that we deserve to exist without constantly fighting for survival. He took Leora's hand. And we do it together, all of us. More cheers. Leora felt tears threatening but forced them back. This wasn't the time for crying. Sarah stepped forward. To the king and queen, to the pack, to the coalition. The crowd took up the chant. To the king and queen. Leora looked up at Kael, saw the pride and exhaustion and hope in his eyes, saw the man behind the curse, the king behind the beast. We really did it, she whispered. We really did. He agreed. Later, when the celebrations had died down and most of the pack had retired, Leora and Kael returned to the garden. The same place where everything had started, where she'd crashed through the thorn wall, bleeding and desperate, and met a wolf who'd changed everything. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't stopped? She asked. That first night. If you'd killed me like you were supposed to. All the time, Kael admitted. I think about how close I came, how easily it could have gone differently. What stopped you? Really? He thought about it for a long moment. Your voice. The way you commanded me, like you had every right to. Like you weren't afraid of what I was. He turned to face her. No one had talked to me like that in years. Like I was still a person, not just a monster barely held in check. And something in me responded, recognized you. As what? As someone who understood. You were running from your own cage, your own monster. We were the same in a way, both trapped by things we couldn't control, both desperate for a way out. And did we find it? A way out? Kael pulled her close, rested his chin on top of her head. I think we found something better. Not an escape, a choice, a chance to build something that's actually ours. Leora closed her eyes, breathing in the scent of earth and pine and the wild territory that had become home. I like that, a choice. So do I. They stood there in the garden, two people who'd survived the impossible, who'd turned desperation into determination and fear into strength. The curse still prowled inside Kael. The bond still connected them, fragile and fierce. And somewhere beyond their valley, threats still existed. But for the first time since crossing the thorn wall, Leora wasn't afraid of what came next, because whatever it was, they'd face it together. Not as prisoner and captor, not as beast and victim, but as equals, as partners. As king and queen of a kingdom they'd built from ashes and refusal and the stubborn insistence that they deserved more than the lives they'd been given. The moon rose over the valley, full and bright. Wolves howled in the distance, their voices carrying through the trees. And in the garden where it all began, Kael and Leora stood together, holding on to each other and the future they'd fought so hard to claim. She didn't just survive the beast, she mastered him. And in doing so, gave him back his humanity. Not through force, not through magic, but through the simple, impossible act of choosing to stay.